Welcome to the Sensitive Mind Show.
Your purpose in life as a sensitive is to experience the deeper parts of the mind, to move beyond fear and to manage your energy, no matter the circumstance. I'm going to show you, as a sensitive, how you can maximize your talents and feel comfortable in your own skin. For show notes and to join the conversation, visit heidisawyer.com/mind. Hi, my name is Heidi Sawyer. I believe in fairness, but because the way the world is structured, good and kind people often have to fight harder for that fairness. I give good and kind people the tools and the perspective to help them achieve fairness in their lives. Stop wishing things were different and start creating that difference. If you are like me and you believe in fairness, you're not wrong in wanting that. You're not wrong in desiring that. You're not broken. You are an intuitive, sensitive person. So, if you haven't already, read this book because it might well change your life. Visit heidisawyer.com/hip because everyone wants to be hip. They want to be a highly intuitive person. Hello there, I have 3 dilemmas for you today. So we have a look at the first dilemma, which is Zoe. Okay, so Zoe is a life code 4, and we are looking at the dynamic of partner relationships. Her dilemma is how to navigate a divorce without it affecting her 6-year-old. And then we have dilemma number 2, which is Rose, who's a life code 11, and her dynamic is family relationships, and her dilemma is that she feels rejected by her sister and how to solve that. And the third one is Carrie, a life code 11. The dynamic is partner relationships, and should she stay or should she go? So now let's go on to the first one, which is Zoe, who is that life code 4, and the dynamic of partner relationships. So what is the situation? So Zoe has Zoe and 2 other people. Okay, so we are looking at, so this is the situation, what she's asking. So Lucy and I have been separated for 4 years now. We have a son together. He's 6 years old. We share his custody equally with no fixed structure. I initiated a procedure with the mediator to come to an equal agreement for the divorce with no success. So what is the problem that this situation creates? All is smooth, as I always agree with her terms, knowing by experience that if I disagree, the situation will become very difficult for me. In the past, she didn't allow me to see my son because she didn't agree with my behaviour. So what is the question that she's asking me to have a look at? So the question is, how should I approach her to revisit the separation to enable our divorce in equal terms? I don't want the drama and I don't want to feel overwhelmed. Okay, so we are having a look at 3 people. Okay, so in this scenario, this is dilemma number 1, we have Zoe, who is a life code 4. We have Zoe's partner, ex-partner rather, same-sex partner is Lucy, who is also a life code 4, and the son that they share is Fred, okay, who is a life code 5, okay, who is the 6-year-old son. So as an aware partner, Zoe as a life code 4, how would she interact normally with another life code 4? Well, both, in the sense that both life codes, so both Zoe is a life code 4 and Lucy is a life code 4, everything is shaped around love. Okay, so all of their dynamic will be shaped around love. So for the aware life code 4, which is Zoe, she would be looking at how she can make things amicable, how she can make things pleasant, how she can make things decent, and which is shaped around love, and also obviously taking into account how her son would be looking at that as well. Now, for an unaware life code 4, which Lucy is, we'll look at that as Lucy, because Lucy isn't very happy at the moment, as you can see with this, the picture that's being utilised here, is that as an unaware 4, so the dynamics between an aware 4 and an unaware 4 is that the aware 4 will be looking to how to resolve something peacefully as far as love is concerned, but the unaware 4 will still be looking to be loved, but may well do it in a format that feels like it sabotages situations, that it's not really about love, it's about something that's the opposite, almost as though it's that love-hate dynamic. So an aware 4 with an unaware 4, where there has been a partnership situation, where there has been a love relationship, and it's now not in a comfortable place, both parties will be shaped around love, but the aware 4 around how something can be amicable, and the unaware 4 about how they can pretty much tear things apart, but on the basis of love. Okay, so how does that interact with the life code 5? Okay, well, where we have Zoe as the life code 4, who's an aware 4 with a child who's the life code 5, well, the life code 5 individual, especially as a child, will not have shaped yet their full character. But as you can see, a life code 5 is quite a warrior type of energy. So it's quite direct, it's quite forthgoing, it's quite forthcoming in views and opinions. So as Fred matures, so you can expect for him to have a clearer idea of who he is and what his own viewpoint is on these things. At the moment, he will be quite quiet about it. I suspect he'll be really quite quiet about it, quite to a certain degree, not unaware, but not wishing to be involved with that, with the parental dynamic. For Lucy, what Lucy will be doing as the unaware 4, as the interaction with the 5, will be, this becomes, as two unaware parties, the 4 and the 5, it can become really quite a codependent situation. So what does that mean? Well, it means then that Lucy will be drawing upon Fred's insecurities, because 5s tend to have quite obvious insecurities. When the insecurities are there, they'll be quite obvious because they're so much about the warrior. So when they do have an insecurity, it becomes something that's quite obvious. So between Lucy and Fred, there will be, I suspect, some strong elements of a codependent dynamic. So it's within Lucy's interest almost to try and create and solidify that relationship with Fred, but not on a love basis. It will be much more on a codependent basis, where Zoe, I suspect, is finding that really quite tricky and feeling as though she's left out of that scenario, because Lucy is working hard to create a situation where Fred feels like she's the only person of importance, the only person to love. Okay, so all of this dynamic will be shaped around love, especially as we're crossing through this 19th path here. So right in the middle here of the so the 19th path, it is the pathway between the number 5 and the number 4. It's what connects the two. As you look at the tree of life, there is the 13th path that crosses the 19th. So the 13th path crosses from the soul up into the whole self. So this crossing point here right in the middle of things. What are crossing points? Well, crossing points are the dark nights, there's challenges, the challenge aspects. So always within this relationship dynamic, there will be challenge as far as Fred is concerned, because he's a 5, and on the other side of this, there will always be a challenge between these two, so between Lucy and Zoe, because it may well be part of Fred's path in life to feel that there is some kind of challenge, a dynamic that he's having to push against. Now, as he gets older, it may become something that helps him be stronger about life, or stronger about his own sense of self and his own sense of soul dynamic. But right at the moment, it will feel, especially for Zoe, like it's a really uncomfortable and painful situation, especially as she would like to bring the whole relationship between the pair of them to a close and move on and move forward and share access to Fred in a fair and kind way. So now let's see how to resolve this situation on equal terms. If we go back to the question is, how should I approach her to revisit the separation to enable our divorce in equal terms? I don't want drama and I don't want to feel overwhelmed. Well, to start with, Zoe, I can tell you full on that you're not going to escape the drama, okay? Because of what I've already said, which is Lucy, as an unaware 4, will be trying to create a codependent dynamic with Fred as that life code 5, so that she feels that she's the centre of his universe. And anyone that tries to disrupt that by showing him a different kind of love, which is not codependent, which is much more, well, a meeting of selves, she will fight, okay, because she wants it as that unaware for that codependent situation. Okay, so Zoe is not going to get away with that in terms of no drama and no feeling overwhelmed, because Lucy will do her best every time this is confronted to create some form of drama. So let's have a look and see how Zoe can approach it so that there is minimum drama. Okay, so that's the question that I'm going to ask as I utilize the archetypes in order to do that. Now I have these where I'm not looking at them. A huge deck, because I've got multiple decks here, we'll mix in because we might end up with doubles. And as I'm moving the cards around, I'm thinking of Zoe's situation and how this can be resolved fairly peacefully and with minimum drama. So the first person I'm looking at is Zoe, okay? So now I'm going to pick one of these archetypes based on Zoe. Okay, so we have the servant. So I'm just going to pin this onto here where Zoe is. Now, if Zoe wants this in a very peaceful manner, it is that she's going to have to go into this kind of subservient or servant type of situation role. But I suspect, as we look further into this, that it won't be about being subservient as far as Lucy is concerned, because that would be playing into that codependent scenario. I suspect it'll translate into how can she best serve Fred and Fred's needs. Okay, so I suspect that that's how it will transpire. So the next person we're going to have a look at is, I think we'll look at Lucy last. We'll look at Fred next, because that feels like the natural flow. Okay, so now I'm thinking of Fred and how this can be resolved peacefully. Okay, so we have the mystic as far as Fred is concerned. So initially what I would be saying as far as he's concerned is that he is a life code 5 who is much more in touch with the deeper side of himself. Okay, so Life Code 5s quite often find that that's a challenge in their life, that they need to be more in touch with the deeper part of themselves, because they're almost afraid of that, because they have to be this warrior. So they've got a strong will that's placed into things. So for a Life Code 5 to have this mystic come up means that he is much more inclined to look at things more deeply than a Life Code 5 would naturally. So this suggests to me that he is actually very aligned with Zoe. Okay, so even though Zoe's fear is that Lucy will somehow or another pull him away from his interaction with Zoe as well as a parent, what I can say is that Zoe doesn't need to worry too much about that, because Fred is completely aware, even though he's only 6 years old, he is aware that Zoe loves him. Okay, he is aware of that. He's much more intuitive about that than he gives off. Okay, so he might give that a different picture, but he's actually really quite attuned to and in line with Zoe. So as long as she is focused on serving his needs, that relationship is okay. So let's have a look at Lucy. Okay, so I'm now thinking of Lucy, and kind of straight away for Lucy's kind of desperation. Let's have a look. To feel loved, really, that's what her desperation is. Oh, wow. I've got a double. Amazing. So we've got a servant. So another servant. Okay, this is fantastic. Okay. Gosh, couldn't look for this more so than if I tried. This is brilliant. So how does Zoe solve this? Well, what she keeps doing is addressing, consistently with Lucy, we need to resolve this, to finish this relationship off in a way that we can both best serve Fred. Okay? If she keeps with that line as a line of consistency, as far as this is concerned, eventually she will get through as far as Lucy is concerned, especially with this dynamic with the son. Okay, with the son that they share. He is more perceptive than he gives off. So what I'm interested to see is, let's have one last card just to give this as a full picture, and let's have a look and see how it shapes. Okay. So we've got the Knight. Right, this is interesting. This gives really strong insight into how she does this. So how Zoe should position this, as far as Lucy is concerned, is that it would serve Fred hugely, as in she would be his rescuer, the Knight, if she put his needs ahead, and that they both put his needs ahead. Then she would be doing the absolute best thing by Fred, not by Zoe, but the best thing by Fred in an equal way, which would then mean that they had a suitable outcome. And if she keeps pushing that towards Lucy, she'll eventually get through to her, because Lucy will see it as that she is Fred's rescuer. That's what a knight is, as in not Dark Knight, but as in knight, as in knight in shining armour. The knight likes to be the rescuer, to be the solver. So what we have then is both life codes 4, even though one is aware and one is unaware, serving their life code in terms of love. Okay, and that would be how Zoe could most productively solve her situation. So before we go on to the next dilemma, I need to clear the board, and that means that I have an important message from our sponsor. Well, me. So I'll be back.
If you like the
archetypes
archetypes and the life codes, then you're going to love receiving my 2 monthly free predictions. The first is a group reading
up the conscious line using the archetypes as your guide for the month ahead as an intuitive, sensitive person. And the second is a prediction specific to your own individual life code, your own life code number. And you can see examples of this and sign up to have these 2 free predictions sent to your inbox every month by visiting heidisawyer.com/mind. Okay, so now we move on to dilemma number 2. So what have we got for dilemma number 2? So what we have is Rose's situation. So Rose is a life code 11. Okay, so I'm just going to put this onto here. And we've got this figure of, for Rose as a life code 211, as feeling sort of mouth taped over because feeling rejected. And so it's a situation where she's feeling rejected. And then we have Mum, who is a life code 110. Now I'm going to put Mum in the life code 110 in the physical rather than the whole self. And we have Sis, who is a life code 4. So we've got another situation with a life code 4. Okay, so I'm going to put them there. Right, so the dilemma is, what's the situation? I have a rocky relationship with my sister. My mum and I moved away from our hometown to be closer to her and her family. I thought this was going to be a good thing, but we are never involved in anything they do. My sister thinks she knows best. I don't get out very much, so maybe she's right. It hurts when she tells me my life is wrong and she doesn't understand me. I want a relationship with her, but her criticism is hard to cope with. I'm trying my best, but life is overwhelming. So what is the problem? The situation creates tension. Past drama is unforgiven between Mum and Sis. I'm stuck in the middle. I feel bad for moving here. Things haven't worked out how I thought, and we never spend time with my sister and her kids. I have no idea what to do and feel responsible for fixing things between them, but I feel I've been trying my whole life. I'm sick of feeling I have to take sides. Okay, so 211s. So Rose is the 211. 211s often find themselves right in, as she has done, found herself right in the thick of things. So 211s quite often find themselves right in the thick of things, right in the thick of sorting or solving things. So they are quite often seen as either the person who's in between solving things or as the leader, as the way out. Why? Because of it being a 211. 2 from a 11 rather than a straight 2 from a 20. What does it mean? It means that 211s also follow what's called the 13th path, which is through this area of challenge. The 13th path is what connects the whole self from the 110 at the top to the 6 in the middle of the tree of life. So the 13th path is about what it feels difficult, what feels like a challenge, and feels like it's something that you're out of control of. Now, Rose is in a classic situation as far as that's concerned. She feels out of control of this situation. She feels powerless almost, but at the same time, as though the responsibility is thrown in her direction in order to solve the dynamic. But she doesn't know what she's supposed to actually do as far as her mum and her sister are concerned, because whatever she does doesn't feel like the right thing. Okay, so that's not unusual for a life code 211 to be going through that kind of aspect of challenge, feeling powerless to solve something, but at the same time feeling as though it's their responsibility. So we have sister as a life code 4, who again is the center of everything. So she's the center of this dynamic. So we have what would normally be a triangle scenario. So we've got a triangle situation, and sister's power relies on the fact that there is division. Okay, so as a life code 4, and we're going to look at sister as an unaware life code 4, again, everything to do with love. How does she achieve a dynamic where she feels that she has love? Okay, so she's looking for love. As an unaware 4, we're looking at a codependent situation again, which is, how does she achieve love where she feels that the situation is, well, she can't ask for it. So as a life code 4, everything is shaped around love, but in these kind of situations, they can't ask for it, to feel it, because that would almost be admitting an insecurity. And in this situation, sister cannot admit that insecurity, so she's not going to allow for it to shape something. So what's the best solution? Well, create a triangle situation where it's much easier to make it someone else's fault. So as an example, this dynamic between Rose and her sister is, but Rose is actually in more control of the scenario than she thinks. The only reason that she doesn't feel in control of it is because as that life code 211, she's had her confidence knocked. And when a life code 211 has their confidence knocked, they question all their decisions, because normally they're really quite intuitive about things. So what Rose is really saying is that she's not feeling very instinctual, she's not feeling very intuitive about this situation, but she's been put in charge of kind of solving it. So sister is kind of playing on that a little bit. So even though the 211 energy is above the 4, so to speak, metaphorically, as in it's directing that, and then you've got that dynamic passing between along the 16th path, which is the connector between the 4 and the 2. Okay, so on this 2 you can see we've got, it says male, and on the 4 we've got love. So it's that dynamic between love and what do we normally see the male energy as? Well, in this scenario, it's the guru energy, so it's the overseer, it's the energy that gives direction. Okay, so sister is looking for direction, but she's not receiving it from Rose, and therefore is being resentful. Mum here is kind of, if you look at this, how it's positioned on the tree of life, you've got the 2 and the 4, so we've got Rose and sister placed really quite close together, closest that they could be. And then we've got Mum kind of right off in things, she's right off over here. And the character for Mum is kind of like a sulky teenager. What's being shown here is a sulky teenager, because Mum is really not directing anything at all. So she is more of the child in the situation than the parent. Okay, and Rose is being seen as the person who is supposed to be taking control of that, but at the same time not feeling as though she has the kind of permission to do that. So Mum is trying to be, I suspect, because as a 110 in the physical world, so 110 in the physical, in the everyday world, 110s in the physical who are unaware can be quite into people pleasing. Okay, so they will please in order to be accepted. Okay, why? Because it's based around the physical. What do you do in this world? Well, you have to be pleasing in order to be accepted. That's the message that society gives us at some level or another. So therefore, Mum's central focus will be pleasing in order to be accepted. But pleasing to be accepted by whom? Pleasing to be accepted by sister. So sister feels like she's completely in control of the love situation as that life code 4. So let's have a look to see how this scenario is solved. Okay, so the question is, I'm struggling to cope. I know it's not my responsibility to fix, but I can't let it go. Any help clearing is great. Okay, so let's have a look. So really what we need now to have a look at is how we see that this situation is resolved on equal terms. So, fairly, how does this situation get resolved in a fair way? Well, for starters, we need to have a look at how Rose improves her sense of self and her self-esteem, because as that life code 2, she will be seen as the person who is in charge and who is directing this dynamic, because mum here as this life code 110 in the physical world, unaware, is not going to be directing anything, because she just wants to be pleasing to whoever is the most dominant energy. Well, sis, as that life code 4, is the most dominant at the moment, because she wants to feel loved. And how does she feel love at the moment? Well, by controlling the dynamic between her mother and her sister. That's what she's doing it for. Okay, so how does this pattern get broken? Well, Rose needs to have a look at what is going to help her improve her sense of self and her sense of self-esteem. So let's have a look at what that is, so that she can step into her role as that life code 2 and take charge of the situation. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so I'm thinking of Rose and what she can do to improve her sense of worth, so that she can help improve this situation. Let's have a look. So what have we got? Oh, we've got the artist. Okay, well this is interesting, because the artist is quite a neutral energy. It's quite neutral, but it's also very clear as far as an intuitive sensitive is concerned. So this means it's about Rose becoming more of herself. So instead of trying to be something that is pleasing to her sister, it's much more of herself and saying, do you know what? No, not interested in doing things because you want to fight against me as this life code forces. I'm not interested. Actually, who I am is I'm a peaceful person. I want to do things peacefully. I'm a quietly creative, pleasant individual, and therefore I choose to be treated as such. That's how Rose looks at this, or can look at this. If she's able to do that without any more arguments, confrontation, I suspect there's been lots of yibba yabba from sis, sort of loud, I think this, I think that, whereas Rose just says, do you know what? Not interested. Be pleasant. I'm pleasant. I'm a decent person. I'm not prepared to have any more insults or be shouted at. If you want to talk to me pleasantly, nicely, great. If you don't, fine. Rather than seek sis's approval. That's what's being fed into this situation. Okay, so let's have a look at mum. Okay, so let's have a look and see what mum is up to as far as this is concerned. Now, what can happen is sometimes it's what's going on in the unconscious. So we can have a look to see what mum is up to. She may not be conscious of this, but she may be doing this unconsciously, especially as a life code 110, because life code 110s are split into two different dynamics. Very much in the physical, which is what is going on in this situation, and very much as the whole self. Okay, so they're split into two different dynamics, and sometimes they're either one or the other. Well, in this situation, as this 110, unaware 110, mum is into massive people pleasing. Okay, but there must be a payoff for this. So let's have a look to see what the emotional payoff is. Okay. Okay, so we've got the visionary. What does it mean in this situation? Well, mum thinks it's for the best. Okay, so mum thinks it's for the best if she just stays out of it, doesn't offer an view or an opinion, remains passive within the scenario, argues, but is passive. So actually thinks that it's for the best if it's not really resolved or solved. And that won't be necessarily at a conscious level. That's much more to do with, well, and it'll be very much linked as far as that pleasing and that people pleasing scenario is concerned. So who holds the control right now is sis. Control of love, and how does she feel that she has love and attention? Well, actually by creating this division and this dynamic. So let's have a look to see what's going on as far as cis is concerned. Okay, so we've got God. Okay, so this can only mean one thing, which is cis's behaviour right at the moment is really quite narcissistic. Okay, so Rose's best way to resolve all of this is actually can be completely herself, which is, I'm not arguing, I'm not being confrontational, I'm not getting involved. So I'm not playing the game. So Rose needs to have a look at it from that perspective, rather than trying to people please cis, who loves this being centre of attention and is feeding off it, rather than feeding it by any ways and means. It's just saying, actually, no, Rose is going to decide I'm being myself. If she's able to do that and expand upon that and her own creative output, what she's interested in, then cis loses the power over the dynamic in the situation. And that, I would say, is really necessary for Rose to feel any way, shape or form better, and needing to rebalance herself and feel that it's not the environment that she's moved to, so the town that she's moved to, it's how she feels right now, because cis is ruling that world. Whereas cis doesn't rule that world anymore. She may well find that the town she's living in isn't so bad after all. Okay, so let's just have one last one to see how Rose can help herself feel more comfortable with the dynamic and the situation and the environment that she's in. So this town that she's in, let's have a look. We've got the pioneer, okay? So it's absolutely, completely about adjusting what has been the previous family dynamic. So I suspect this triangulation between three people and the divisions that are being created is not the first time that this has been a family dynamic, and it's not the first time that Rose has experienced this as far as the family life is concerned. So in removing herself from it by just being herself and sticking to it, sticking to that level of view and principle, not getting involved in it, she pioneers a new way of being and a new way of life. So as we move on to dilemma number 3, before we move on to that, I need to clear the board, and obviously for a few seconds here's another important message from our sponsor, me.
If you like live events like this, then you are going to love joining me every month for my monthly live webinar, where we dive deep into a single topic, such as creating a strong mind and body balance, or developing your soul connection, or things like overcoming codependence, or how to master the self, to name but a few. But if you want to be notified of when these are available, be sure to register your email address here, which is heidisawyer.com/webinar. And I will send you an invitation to each event.
Okay, so we have dilemma number 3, and this is Carrie. Okay, so Carrie is a life code 211. Interesting, we've got another life code 211. And this is a relationship question about Bob, who is a life code 7. I'm just going to pop in there. And then Bob's daughter, so this is not Carrie's daughter, this is Bob's daughter, Erica, who is also a life code 211. Okay, so what is the dilemma? Okay, so what's the situation? Hi Heidi, I've been struggling to decide if I should end my relationship with my boyfriend Bob. We've been on and off many times. It feels like I can't live with or without him, But when we have lived together for a while, I start feeling depressed, feeling that he doesn't love me or care for me, and it feels like he doesn't notice me or his daughter Erica as much as both of us deserve. I wonder if it's my past hurt that makes me paranoid and needy, or is it right what I'm actually feeling? So what's the problem the situation creates? Feeling stuck in the situation, indecisive of what's right. It's making me exhausted, not being able to decide. Also, I feel responsible for taking care of Erica, since she has been saying she feels like her mother doesn't love her, never gives her hugs, and never tells her anything along those lines of "I love you" or anything. Not feeling it from her mother. So, what is the question that Carrie wants to ask me? Should I stay in the relationship or should I end it? Okay, so that's really quite a tricky situation, because we have a 211, so Carrie as that 211, feeling very strongly the responsibility that often a 211 will experience in life or feel. So going back to that viewpoint of the 13th path, the challenge path between the soul and the 110 as the whole self, that challenge path, that dark path, which is what is feeling that there are tricky dynamics to solve, tricky things to solve. Now, 211s quite often feel that that's a normal part of their life, so they very much will often stick around something longer than anybody else would, because they're used to aspects of life being a challenge or feeling that there is a challenge to overcome or to solve. So Carrie's sense of responsibility as that 211 will be really quite high. Now, does she feel that strong sense of responsibility to the 7, as in Bob, or does she feel that strong sense of responsibility to Erica as the stepdaughter? Well, I suspect as a life code 211, really her sense of responsibility is actually to the other life code 211, which is Erica, the stepdaughter. But she will be seeing it as that her connection is to Bob, the partner. Okay, but in actual fact, her strongest sense of responsibility will be to Erica. So typically, as that life code 211, what's the connection to a life code 7? Well, they're both down the same line. So this line here, so the 2, 4 and the 7, this side of the tree of life is very much about action, pushing forward, making decisions quickly, changing your mind slowly. Okay, that may sound a bit peculiar. So when someone is in that position of changing the mind quickly and making decisions slowly, it goes very much against the grain for anyone who's a 2, a 4 or a 7. It goes very strongly against the grain. So that dynamic between the life code 211 and the life code 7 in terms of a relationship, what does that feel like? Well, it would be quick, it would be fast, decisions are made quickly. The dynamic is it will switch between arguments and passion. It will be may well be at times very loud, as in the communication is really quite loud, very emotional. The dynamic may actually be extremely emotional, very emotional dynamic. So the 7 will be, as a unaware 7, will be much more along the lines of my needs must be met, my emotional needs must be met. And the 211 will say, oh, okay, I'll do that for you. I'll make sure that my entire life revolves around you in order to keep you calm and keep you quiet. It's not quiet, that's the wrong word, but calm. So I'm going to sacrifice myself to make sure that you're calm as that life code 7. So it's easy for a 2 and a 7 to be in a codependent situation. Now the relationship dynamic that's going on between Bob and Carrie is extremely codependent. Okay, so it really does build strongly within that emotional dynamic of the 7, feeling empowered almost by the 2's looking after. So the 2-11 in this situation will be looking after the 7, and so that will be giving the 7, the unaware 7, more permission to be dramatic about what their needs and what their wants are. Now, that's not always done in a vocal way. It can be done in quite a passive-aggressive way. Okay, so I suspect that in this particular situation and dynamic, this 2-11 has been trying to work hard with that 7 to be as pleasing as possible, and yet the goalposts keep moving. So what is the interaction between 2 life code 11s typically? What is it? Well, between 2 life code 11s, it's either very compatible or completely opposite. So it's either works well together or it's a clash of the titans. In this situation, so between Erica and Carrie, it's compatible. Okay? And that's the reason for this is because Erica is triggering Carrie's need to care for scenario. So quite often, life code 2-11s have a vibration of that they need to care for. So they need to take care, they need to look after, they need to feel that they have a role, which is taking care and looking after. Or in some scenarios, it's taking care and looking after, or being cared for and looked after. Okay, so where it's both have got that to take care of and feel looked after, that's where it's a powerful dynamic together, because it's a leadership dynamic. It means then that rather than feeling having to lead alone, you're leading together, and so it's built on a strong relationship and a strong dynamic. And life code 2-11s work better in partnership. So when you have 2 life code 2-11s working together in partnership, it's a strong partnership. So what we have here is actually 2 people feeling overrun by this life code 7, Bob, as in he is in the position of ruling the roost, so to speak, when in actual fact they've got more power than they actually think. Okay, together, both Erica and Carrie, and Bob is feels weaker than he gives off. So he'd be giving off this whole, I'm very important, and I'm the person of importance as far as this relationship is concerned. Okay, so let's see how this is resolved on fair terms. Let's have a look. So how do we begin to look at that? Well, let's have a look at what Bob is up to. Okay, let's have a look and see what his viewpoint is as far as this relationship dynamic is concerned. Okay, so I'm thinking of Bob. I'll have a look at him first. Normally you would have a look at Carrie first, but let's have a look at Bob. Okay, ooh, he's got stuck here. Let's have a look. Okay, so we've got the Liberator. So I would be saying, let's have a look at what else we've got here. But I would be saying that this, right at this point, when you've got the Liberator, he's not somebody who is concerned around commitment. He will be an in-the-moment person as far as his emotions are concerned and what suits him right now at this particular moment in time. So he wants to feel free. Whatever is in his life, I want to feel free. I don't want to feel tied. I want to feel free. And this will be really pulling at Carrie's strings in terms of the things that make her feel insecure. Okay, that will be, I need to be free, I want to do what I want. Whereas Carrie, as that life code 211, does need some form of structure. And this relationship doesn't give her any structure. Okay, so let's have a look at Carrie now. So I'm thinking Carrie. Lover. Okay, so interesting. Again, this reinforces the fact that this relationship is highly codependent. Very, very codependent. So in this situation, Carrie is in love with the idea of love. And when Bob wants to put that on, that's where she feels line and sinker for it and goes, oh wow, this is the best thing for me. I can't live with or without. But actually, I miss him, and then I've got to have him back. And he'll just keep saying, well, as long as you let me be me, be free to do what I want, then I'll come back. It'd be all of that dynamic going on. So Carrie in this scenario is in love with the idea of love. Now let's have a look at Erica. Okay, so we've got the prince here as far as Erica is concerned. So quite often what we have as far as the prince energy is concerned is quite often it's about something that's being hidden, or where someone is hiding something. So I suspect that what Erica actually wants is for Carrie and Erica to be to have a dynamic where they are still in each other's lives, very much in each other's lives. And I suspect that Erica hasn't fully had that conversation with Carrie, because she can see that Carrie is preoccupied as far as Bob is concerned. What I would suggest that Carrie does is she has a conversation with Erica, and she says to her, Erica, what do you want? If myself and Bob split, what would be your preference? What is it that you want? Okay, so to actually talk to Erica quite clearly and have a very grown-up conversation as far as that's concerned, as in, what does Erica want? Because Erica is hiding something, and I suspect that it's the fact that she wants to feel loved, and actually Carrie offers her that love. So in actual fact, that Carrie still needs to work through her codependent stuff, but Bob keeps triggering it, like bouncing up to the surface. But in order to settle that and appease it a little bit, is to have a look at the fact that there is a partnership between two life code 11s, which is one of strength. And this could be a dynamic of one of strength, where one helps the other resolve their own relationship situations, because both are desperate to feel loved. And in this situation, it may well be that actually they focus learning about love on decent kind of mother-daughter dynamics and relationships, that they work through some of those love things, their idea of love, through this dynamic, rather than for Carrie to be looking at a romantic dynamic as something as her way of feeling loved in this world. Now, I suspect, because this dynamic is coming up, this has got something to do with Carrie's past and her own experience of feeling mothered. Okay, so the question is, should she stay or should she go? Let's have a little look as to what that means. Okay, well, interesting. We've got the head nest. Okay, so this means, what should Carrie do? It's about indulging herself here, whereas everything that has been focused in her relationship has been focused towards Bob. And what he does is he just keeps running off with that. And you can also see that in his dynamic with his own daughter, that he expects Carrie to be a parent in this dynamic, whilst he's busy being Mr. Free, and I do what I want. So what Carrie needs to consider is, what does she really want? What does she really want? And I think if Carrie really considered it, what she really wants, and the reason why she's still there, is because she wants to experience love, not necessarily romantic love, but love in another format, which is how to be kind to another person and that kindness to be returned. And I suspect that that dynamic is possible between Carrie and Erica, and if she focuses, or she asks herself, what does she really want? And she indulges that, I suspect it will be around that particular area rather than what it is as far as Bob is concerned. So that's the end of this episode of the Sensitive Mind Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it and found it helpful, do share it with your friends. And be sure to join me next week, where I look forward to giving you an alternative perspective on your dilemmas. Bye for now, and let me leave you with this. For more great free content designed to support your purchase of my book, Highly Intuitive People, 7 Right Brain Traits to Change the Lives of Intuitive Sensitive People, please visit finallyfeelunderstood.com. There you can subscribe and download for free the meditations specific to today's episode. If you have already read the book, then it's time for you to receive exclusive access and support from me and your fellow intuitive sensitives as we go deeper together along this proven 7-step path by joining us in my monthly membership program called Heidi Circle. There you can ask me anything in a safe and private environment, and I will answer you live. Join us today by visiting healmyinnerworld.com.